I would say this. We have already seen deeply concerning evidence of the president's lack of fitness for office, the degree to which profound conflicts of interest may be guiding his foreign policy, as well as evidence of criminality on the part of the president as it pertains to the direction and coordination of an illegal campaign finance scheme in which there is documentary evidence as well as testimony that that scheme continued even while he was in the Oval Office by writing hush money payment checks, reimbursements to Michael Cohen. So it's fair to ask, if that's the case, how much more does the Congress need than documentary and other evidence of criminality and very graphic evidence of certainly conflict of interest? And by that, I'm referring to the fact that the president was secretly pursuing a business deal in Russia, Moscow Trump Tower, through much of the campaign, concealing it from the public, seeking the Kremlin's approval to make that happen. At the same time, he was espousing a different policy towards Russia, more favorable policy towards Russia, at a time when the Kremlin's help, indeed Putin's approval, may have been very necessary for that project and all the money that the Trump family would make from that. But the reality is that the Republican members of Congress, with very few exceptions, have been utterly unwilling to stand up to this president in any way. We're going to have a vote soon in the Senate on whether the Congress will resist the president's effort to arrogate unto himself Congress's most significant power, next to the power to declare war, and that is the power of the purse. Perhaps even greater than the power to declare war, because the power to influence a war comes principally from Congress's power to defund a war. Very few Republicans in the House were willing to stand up to that obvious and unconstitutional act. How many will be willing to do so in the Senate remains to be seen. But thus far on these actions, there is very little willingness to even acknowledge the impropriety, let alone illegality, by members of the GOP. What will be necessary to make an impeachment a bipartisan process would have to be extraordinarily clear and compelling. I don't foreclose at the possibility that the Mueller investigation will produce that, or that our own will, but I think the Speaker is absolutely right. In its absence, an impeachment becomes a partisan exercise doomed for failure. And I see little to be gained by putting the country through that kind of wrenching experience. As I've often remarked in the past, the only thing worse than putting the country through the trauma of an impeachment is putting the country through the trauma of a failed impeachment. So this is an extraordinary remedy. The president may warrant it if the evidence is sufficient, but that bar is set very high by the Constitution and by the requirement of bipartisan support in the Congress.